The bullet hit the post 3 inches from Cole Harlan's ear before he even heard the shot. He was already moving, rolling off the porch of the Dry Fork trading post and into the red dust, his hand finding his revolver before his knees found the ground. 2 riders were coming hard down the canyon road, firing wild, their horses kicking up a wall of red clay behind them. Cole came up on one knee, fired twice, and one horse went riderless. The second rider pulled hard left and disappeared behind the rock shelf. Cole stood. He was 34 years old, lean as rawhide, with a jaw that hadn't met a razor in 2 weeks and eyes the flat gray color of an overcast sky. He had ridden this stretch of New Mexico territory for 11 years. He had tracked men for the marshal's office, driven cattle for 3 different outfits, buried 2 partners, and never once asked anything from the land except that it leave him alone. The land rarely agreed. He walked to the fallen rider. The man was a Dalton outfit hand, young, maybe 20, with a brand new pair of boots that had never done a day's real work. Cole didn't know his name. He looked at the boots for a long moment, then looked away. Walt Greer came out of the trading post with a shotgun still smoking in the wrong direction. Walt was the post's owner, 60 years old, with a belly that arrived somewhere about 4 seconds before the rest of him. "You get both of them?" Walt asked. "One ran," Cole said. "Dalton boys?" Boots were too clean for anything else. Walt looked at the body, then at the canyon road, then back at Cole. "They'll come back with more." "They always do," Cole said. He didn't say it with any particular feeling. It was just the shape of things out here. The Dalton outfit had been pushing its land claim west for 2 years, swallowing smaller ranches, burning what wouldn't sell, and putting men in the ground when neither option worked. Cole had been hired 6 weeks ago by 4 families in the Dry Fork Valley to ride patrol and discourage trouble. He had discouraged 11 men so far. He had been paid in dried beef and a roof. It was not a glamorous life. Cole had made peace with that some years ago. He loaded 2 fresh rounds, holstered the revolver, and walked to his horse, a dun quarter horse named Fletcher, who showed 0 interest in the drama that had just unfolded. Fletcher was eating from a water trough and refused to stop even when Cole tightened the cinch. "Appreciated," Cole said to the horse. Fletcher did not respond. Cole rode the canyon road east for 2 miles, following the second rider's trail until it cut north into the high scrub and vanished into the broken country above the tree line. He didn't push it. Following a man into that broken terrain alone was how you ended up face down with nobody finding you until spring. He turned back. The sun was dropping fast, painting the canyon walls in shades of copper and old blood, the kind of light that made the territory look beautiful for about 20 minutes before the cold came down off the mountains and reminded you it was trying to kill you. Cole pulled his coat tighter and rode. He was 3 miles from the trading post when he came over a small ridge and pulled Fletcher up hard. There was a wagon in the draw below, and tipped on its side, one wheel still spinning slow. 2 horses were down, tangled in the traces. A man in a rancher's coat was crumpled against a boulder, not moving. And standing between the wagon and the scrub with a hunting knife in her hand, facing down 2 mounted men who were laughing, was a woman. She was Apache. Cole could see that from the ridge. She wore a calico dress over buckskin leggings, her black hair loose and moving in the canyon wind. She was holding the knife the way a person holds a knife when they actually know how to use it, not up high and dramatic, but low and forward, blade angled out. The 2 riders were circling her, still laughing, taking turns moving in close and pulling back, the way boys poke at something to see if it bites. Cole watched for exactly 2 seconds. He put his heels into Fletcher and came down the ridge at a run. The riders heard him coming and turned. Cole didn't slow down. He rode between them and the woman at full speed, so close his stirrup nearly took one man across the face, and pulled Fletcher sideways into a hard stop that put 600 pounds of horse directly between her and them. "Ride," Cole said. It was the only word he offered. No explanation. No threat beyond the revolver that had appeared in his right hand between the ridge and the draw. The two men looked at each other. They looked at Cole. They looked at the revolver. They rode. Cole watched them until they were dust on the canyon road, then turned Fletcher around. The woman had not moved. She still held the knife low. She was watching him with dark eyes that gave away nothing. Not fear, not relief, not gratitude, just watching, assessing. "The man by the rock," Cole said, nodding toward the crumpled figure. "He yours?" "My uncle," she said. Her English was clean, slightly formal, the kind learned from a mission school or a trader's household. Cole swung down and walked to the man. He was alive. A hard knock to the head, a broken left arm from the look of the angle, breathing steady. "Wagon, lose a wheel?" "They shot the wheel," she said. She had not put the knife away. Cole looked at the wagon, then at the horses, then at the ridgeline. The light was nearly gone. The temperature had already dropped 6 degrees, and whoever those two riders were, they had friends within a day's ride in any direction. "I've got a post 2 miles west," he said. "Walt Greer's place. Your uncle needs splinting and a roof." She looked at him for a long moment. The knife was still in her hand. "I am Nara," she said. "Cole," he said. He went to get the horses untangled from the traces, and he told himself it was just the practical thing to do, helping a hurt man and a woman alone in the dark. Just logistics. Just the shape of things. He told himself that all the way back to the trading post. He did not entirely believe himself. Walt Greer set the uncle's arm without being asked and without commentary, which was one of the things Cole had always respected about him. The uncle's name was Broken Cedar, though he told Walt to call him Ben, which was the name the mission school had given him 30 years ago, and which had stuck the way unwanted things often do. He was in his 60s. Built close to the ground and solid, with a face that had seen enough weather to qualify as geography. Nara sat across the room and watched Walt work. She had put the knife away somewhere in the transition between the canyon and the trading post, but Cole had the distinct impression it had not gone far. Walt poured 3 cups of coffee and pushed 2 of them toward Cole and Nara, without making a production of it. Cole drank his standing by the window. Outside, the canyon was dark, and the wind was moving through the piñon pines with a sound like water on stone. "Where were you headed?" Cole asked. "Mora," Nara said. "My uncle trades blankets. We do this route twice a year." "Not safe country right now?" Cole said. "It was not safe before," she said. "It is less safe now. This is different from unsafe." Cole looked at her over the rim of his cup. There was something precise about the way she used words. Not slow, not uncertain. Precise. The way a person is precise when they have thought carefully about what English can and cannot do for them. "The Dalton outfit has been pushing hard into this valley," Cole said. "They don't much care who they push." "I know the Dalton name," Nara said. "They burned a camp 2 seasons ago, south of the river." Walt, who had been pretending to focus on bandaging, went very still. Cole set his cup down. "Anyone hurt?" "3 families lost everything," Nara said. She said it flat, the way you say a thing that is true and terrible and which you have already decided not to spend more words on. The room was quiet for a moment. The fire popped. "I will need to reach Mora to tell the trading family we are delayed," Nara said. "Is there a way to send word?" "Billy Crane rides to Mora on Thursdays," Walt said. "That's 2 days." "2 days," she said. She looked at her uncle, who had fallen into a pain-heavy sleep on the cot. She looked at the dark window. She looked at no particular thing for a moment in a way that might have been tiredness or might have been something much older than that. "You can stay," Walt said. "I've got a back room, not fancy." "Nothing out here is fancy," she said. "Not sharp, just accurate." Cole pulled a chair back from the table and sat down. He didn't entirely know why he sat down instead of going to the bunk in the stable loft where he slept. Maybe it was the coffee. Maybe it was the window and the dark outside it. "You've made this route before," he said. "You know this country." "Better than most people who think they own it," she said. Walt made a small sound that was not quite a laugh. "The 2 men from the draw," Cole said. "You'd seen them before?" "On the road, an hour before the wagon," she said. "They followed." "They know you had no protection on the road." "They knew I was Apache," she said. "That was enough for them." Cole looked at the table. There was a ring on the wood from years of coffee cups, a dark circle worn into the grain. He had looked at that ring many times. He had never particularly thought about it. "I'll ride to Mora with you," he said. Nara looked at him. Not warm, not cold. That same careful assessment she had given him in the draw, the kind of look that weighed things honestly. "Why?" she asked. It was a fair question. Cole thought about it. "Because the Dalton boys who ran tonight will come back," he said. "And they won't come back with 2. And 2 days is a long time for your uncle to be moved." It was a practical answer. It was a true answer. It was not the only answer. Nara held the look for another beat, then nodded once. "We leave at first light," she said. She went to the back room. Cole sat at the table a while longer. The fire burned down. Outside, Fletcher shifted in the stable, and the wind moved through the pines. Cole had ridden this territory for 11 years. He knew the roads and the ridge lines and the water sources and the men who would kill you for your horse. He knew the cold that came off the mountains and the heat that came off the canyon floor and the specific quality of silence right before something went wrong. What he did not know, what he had not thought about in longer than he could name, was what it felt like to sit in a lit room and not want to leave it. He left anyway. He went to the stable loft and lay on the hay and looked at the ceiling planks and listened to Fletcher breathe below, and told himself tomorrow was just a job, just a ride. The ceiling planks did not argue with him. Neither did the part of himself that knew he was lying. First light came cold and gray, the kind of morning that made the desert look like the surface of the moon. Cole had the horses ready before Nara came out of the trading post, which surprised him because he had expected to wait. She came out moving fast with a canvas pack over one shoulder and her uncle behind her, walking slow but walking, his splinted arm held close to his side, his face set in the expression of a man who had been told not to make things worse and had decided to cooperate, mostly. "He should not ride," Cole said. "He will not be told this a second time," Nara said. Ben looked at Cole. "I have broken things before," he said. "I am still here." Cole got Ben onto the gentler of the trading post horses, a stocky roan Walt called Duchess, who had never moved faster than a trot in her life and seemed to take personal offense at the concept of urgency. That would be fine today. Walt came to the door. "You watch the high shelf road past the second canyon," he said. "Dalton boys like that shelf, gives them angle." "I know it," Cole said. "Min and Cole," Walt said. He stopped. Then he said, "Never mind. Just come back." Cole nodded, and they rode out. The first hour was quiet. The canyon road climbed northeast into country that got rougher and more broken the further you pushed, big red rock formations rising on both sides, like the ruins of something enormous that nobody had ever named. Nara rode just off Cole's left, slightly behind, which put her where she could watch both him and the ridgeline simultaneously. He noticed that. "You ride like you're expecting trouble," he said. "I always expect trouble," she said. "It is polite to be ready." "Polite," he said. "It saves everyone embarrassment," she said. "If trouble comes and you are unprepared, there is a scene. If you are prepared, it resolves cleanly." Cole thought about this, and it was not the way he had ever thought about preparedness. But it was not wrong. "Where did you learn English?" he said. "St. Catherine's Mission School," she said. "I was there 4 years." "And before that?" "Before that, I learned the things the mission school could not teach," she said. She did not say it with bitterness. She said it the way she said most things, as a fact that had its own weight and did not need decoration. Ben, riding behind them on Duchess, said something in Apache. Nara answered without turning her head. Ben made a sound that was definitely a laugh, which caused him to wince because of the arm, which caused him to mutter something shorter and more emphatic. "What did he say?" Cole asked. "He said you ride like a man who is used to riding alone." Nara said, "I am used to riding alone." "He finds this curious," she said. "He says a man who rides alone chooses to not arrive anywhere that matters." Cole looked at the road ahead. "And what did you say?" "I said some places take longer to find than others," Nara said. Cole had no answer for that. He rode. They hit trouble at the second canyon, exactly where Walt had warned. 2 shots came off the shelf road above, kicking rock dust up from the trail 10 feet ahead of Cole's horse. He had Fletcher moving before the echo finished, driving left toward the rock cover along the canyon wall and shouting back at Nara to follow. She was already there. She had pulled Ben and Duchess behind a wide shelf of red sandstone before Cole reached cover himself. And she was on her feet with a rifle Cole had not known she was carrying. He's scanning the high shelf with the calm focus of someone who had done exactly this before. 2, she said. Maybe 3. That second shot came from a different angle. "I heard it," Cole said. He was already pulling his rifle from the saddle scabbard. "The left shooter is behind the crevice at the second overhang," she said. "The right one moved after the first shot." Cole looked. She was right. The crevice shot was the easy problem. The moved shooter was the question. "Cover the crevice," Cole said. "I'll go up the back trail and push right." She looked at him. "That trail puts you exposed for 40 yards. "Yes," he said. "There is a better line," she said. 20 yards back, there is a cut in the rock. It angles up behind their position. Cole looked back. He saw the cut. It was narrow, and it was going to cost him his rifle, but it was there. "How do you know this trail?" he said. "I have been here before," she said. "This canyon does not change." He handed her his rifle and went at the cut with just his revolver and his knees and 3 separate opinions from the rock about how welcome he was. Behind him, he heard Nara fire once, deliberate and measured, not wild, not panicked, and he heard someone on the shelf swear loudly and reposition. She was keeping them honest. Cole came up behind the right shooter just as the man turned around. The man was young, another Dalton hand, and he had the look of someone who had spent his whole life being told he was frightening and had recently discovered this was not a universal opinion. "Put it down," Cole said. The man put it down. The left shooter, faced with Nara's second shot tearing a chunk from his cover and Cole appearing behind his partner, made the reasonable decision and stood up with his hands at shoulder height. Cole walked them down the back trail at gunpoint. At the bottom, Nara was standing with both rifles, one in each hand, held in a way that communicated she was fully prepared to use either one. Ben sat on Duchess, looking entirely unsurprised by the entire sequence of events. Cole took the two men's horses and firearms and pointed them east on foot. It would take them most of the day to walk back to wherever they'd come from. That was time enough. "Good line on that crevice shot," Cole said to Nara, handing her rifle back. "I did not miss," she said. "I know. That's what I meant." She looked at him for a moment, and something shifted in her expression, small and brief, like light moving through a crack in stone. Not a smile exactly. Something that knew what a smile was. They rode on toward Mora. Ben had said nothing during the entire encounter. As they cleared the second canyon and the road opened into wider country, he said something in Apache. Nara translated without being asked. "He says you are useful," she said. "High praise," Cole said. "From him," Nara said. "It is." Mora was a small trading town with two streets, a church that leaned slightly east, and a general attitude of minding its own business that Cole found deeply appealing. They rode in at midday, and Nara took her uncle directly to an adobe house on the far end of the second street, where a heavy-set woman named Clara came to the door, looked at Ben's arm, looked at Nara, looked at Cole, and pulled all three of them inside with the efficiency of a woman who had dealt with arrivals like this before. Clara had been trading with Ben for 15 years. She fed them all without asking whether they were hungry, which was the right call, because Cole had not eaten since before dawn and would not have admitted it if asked. Ben was settled into a room with his arm elevated and a look on his face of a man who had accepted that comfort was being imposed upon him and had chosen not to fight it. Cole sat at Clara's table and ate pozole and watched Nara across the room, talking with Clara in a low voice. He had spent 11 years reading people for threat and intention. It was what kept you alive in this territory. And he found, now, that he was trying to read Nara not for threat, not for what she might do, but just to understand how she was put together. The way she listened to Clara with her full attention. The way she laughed at something Clara said, low and short and real. The way she moved through a room like she had already decided what mattered in it. Cole put his spoon down. He was not a man given to long thinking about himself. It had always seemed like an inefficient use of time. But sitting in Clara's kitchen in Mora with the sound of Nara's voice moving through the warm air, he had the uncomfortable and specific feeling that something had shifted inside him. The way a stone shifts when water finds a new path under it, slow and permanent and too late to stop once it has started. He was not prepared for this feeling. He had no name for it that did not embarrass him. He picked up his spoon and went back to the pasole and told himself he was tired from the road. That evening, Clara's husband rode out with a message to a marshal's contact about the Dalton shelf ambush. Clara's husband was a compact, quiet man named George, who had the air of someone who had personally witnessed everything the territory could produce and had stopped being surprised by any of it. He shook Cole's hand with the grip of a man twice his size and rode out without ceremony. Nara found Cole on the front step as the sun went down. She sat down beside him without asking, which he appreciated. He had spent enough time around people who announced themselves. "Ben will need 2 weeks before he can travel," she said. "I know. You have a job to get back to," she said. "I do," he said. The street was quiet. Be somewhere a dog made a single announcement about something, and then stopped. The sky above Mora was going from orange to a deep purple blue, the color of a bruise healing, which was maybe an odd way to describe a sky, but it was what came to him. The Dalton outfit will push harder now, Cole said. The ambush missed. That makes them impatient, and impatient men in this territory start making larger decisions. Larger decisions, she said. Burning things, he said, instead of shooting. Nara looked at the street. Like the camp 2 seasons ago, she said. Yes, he said. It sat between them, that acknowledgement. Those 4 families in the valley, Cole said. They hired me to stop something. I have been discouraging it one man at a time. That is not stopping it. That is just slowing it. What stops it? She said. Must cutting the head, Cole said. Dalton himself. Taking him to a federal marshal and making a case that sticks. Nara turned to look at him. You know where he operates from? I know the general territory, Cole said. I don't know his camp. Nobody in the valley does. I do, she said. Cole looked at her. The camp's south of the river that he burned, she said. It was 3 miles from his main camp. We knew where he was. We did not have what you have. What do I have? Cole said. A badge contact, she said. A legal shape to put around the action. Cole looked at her for a long time. The purple blue had gone dark above them. The first stars were showing. That is a dangerous thing, he said. Going after Dalton directly, he will have 12 men minimum. I know, she said. I can't ask you to help with that, he said. You did not ask, she said. I offered. She stood up from the step. The light from Clara's window caught the side of her face for a moment before she turned toward the door. My people have been watching Dalton for 2 seasons, she said. We have been waiting for someone who could make the action legal instead of just necessary. She went inside. Cole sat on the step for a while longer. The stars came out fully. Fletcher, tied to the post at the end of the property, made the low sound he made when he wanted to be noticed. I know, Cole said. A plan was forming in him, the kind of plan that started in the chest rather than the head, which was always the more dangerous kind. But it was forming whether he wanted it or not. He went inside and asked Clara for paper and a pen, and began writing a letter to the federal marshal's office in Santa Fe. The ride back to Dry Fork Valley took 3 days because Cole went the long way, swinging south to look at the country Nara had described. She had drawn him a map on the back of Clara's brown paper, clean, precise lines, the kind of map made by someone who had learned the land by moving through it rather than measuring it. There was a box canyon south of the red shelf, she had marked, and a water source half a day west of that. The Dalton camp sat at the confluence of 2 dry creek beds that came together in a natural bowl. It was good ground for defense. It was also ground with only 2 ways in, which meant only 2 ways out. Cole rode into Dry Fork on the 3rd evening and went directly to Walt's place. Walt had 3 new visitors, a rancher named Hank Duro and his 2 adult sons, all 3 of them with the tight-jawed look of men who had recently lost something. They burned the east pasture, Hank said before Cole had even dismounted. 4 nights ago, took 2 horses, left a note on the fence. What did the note say? Cole asked. Nothing printable? Walt said. Cole looked at Hank's sons. They were young, 20s. With their father's jaw and the specific posture of young men who had decided to be angry because the other available feeling was worse. Don't ride out on them, Cole said to the sons. I know what you're thinking. It will get you killed and it will not help your father. The older son looked like he wanted to argue. The younger one put a hand on his arm. I have a contact in the federal marshal's office, Cole said. No, I sent a letter 5 days ago from Mora. I have information now about the Dalton camp location. If the marshal moves on this, it becomes a federal matter, and that has teeth that a rancher's rifle does not. How long does a federal marshal take? Hank said. 10 days if he moves fast, Cole said. Maybe 2 weeks. Hank looked at the floor. 2 weeks was a long time when your pasture was ash. In the meantime, Cole said, we consolidate. Everyone moves their stock to the Garza Range, which is closer to town and harder to approach without being seen. Nobody rides alone. Nobody answers provocation. And you? Hank said. I'm going to ride the perimeter and make it expensive to come near this valley, Cole said. Like I have been. What he did not say was that he had been thinking about Nara's offer for 3 days, and that he was going to write a second letter to the marshal's office, this one with the map coordinates, and that he had already started thinking about the Box Canyon's 2 entrances in terms of coverage angles. What he also did not say was that he had thought about Nara a specific number of times on the 3-day ride, and that number was too high to be explained by practical reasoning. Hank Duro and his sons took their horses to the Garza Range that night. Cole spent 2 hours with Walt laying out the perimeter plan, and when it was done, he sat at the table with the ring worn into the wood from years of coffee cups and looked at Nara's map. The lines were sure and careful. The canyon markers were exact. There was a small notation in the corner that had no legend, just 3 words in Apache script that he could not read. He thought about asking her what it said. He thought about the way she had sat down next to him on Clara's step without announcing herself. He looked at the map for a long time. Outside, the wind came down off the mountains and moved through the pinon pines, and the fire burned low, and Cole Harlan, who had ridden alone for 11 years and told himself it was a preference rather than a wound, sat quietly in a lit room and did not want to leave it. 10 days later, a federal deputy named Lou Granger rode into Dry Fork with 4 men and a warrant. Cole had the map. Nara had sent word through a writer 3 days before, saying she was coming back through the valley on the route to Mora with 2 men from her community who knew the canyon approaches. The message was practical and short and gave no information it did not need to give. Cole read it 3 times. He was ready when they arrived. Nara came into Dry Fork just ahead of a coming storm, the sky behind the mountains going the color of a fresh bruise, that particular deep green-gray that meant hail and meant it personally. She had 2 men with her, both Apache, both older, both moving with the deliberate ease of people who had covered a lot of ground in their lives and were not interested in hurrying unless hurrying was required. She walked into Walt's trading post the way she had walked into everything, with her attention already distributed across the room, noting what was new, noting what had changed. Cole was at the table. Deputy Lou Granger was beside him, with a map spread out between them. Nara looked at the deputy, then at Cole. "Federal?" she said. "Lou Granger," Cole said. "He's clean." Lou had the good sense to nod and not say anything excessive. Nara set her pack down and came to the table and looked at the maps. She had brought her own, a second one with more detail on the South Canyon approaches, and she put it on top of Granger's territory map without ceremony. "Here," she said. She pointed to the confluence of the dry creek beds. "And here. Those are the 2 approaches. This one is wider, better footing. If you come in force, you come this way. If you come quiet, you come up the east draw and over this shelf." "How many men does Dalton keep at the camp?" Lou asked. "Between 8 and 15, she said. "It changes. He keeps his most dangerous men close and sends the others out on jobs." "She's right," Cole said. I've been tracking the rider patterns. There are 4 men he never sends anywhere. Those are the ones we have to account for at the camp. Lou leaned over the map. He was a solid man in his 40s, the kind of federal deputy who had gotten the job through persistence rather than heroics, which meant he was more reliable than most. My 4 men plus you 2 make 6, he said. That's thin. I have 2 here, Nara said, meaning the men outside. Lou looked at Cole. They're good, Cole said. Lou straightened. 8 against 15 is still thin. We go at first light, Cole said. Dalton's men are not early risers. And the east draw approach puts us above their position before they see us. The surprise is worth 3 men. Nara said something in Apache to the 2 men who had come into the trading post and were standing near the door. One of them responded at length. She listened and then turned back to the table. He says 3 of Dalton's men left the camp 2 days ago heading north, she said. They have not returned. That makes it 8 against 12, Lou said. I can live with 12. They spent another hour on the approach plan. Nara contributed the canyon details. Cole contributed the approach timing. Lou contributed the legal architecture of what had to happen once they had Dalton, because a dead outlaw was a story. And a captured outlaw in front of a federal judge was a resolution. And resolution was what the Dry Fork families needed. Cole and Nara were at the map a long time after Lou and the others had gone to sleep. You don't have to come into the canyon, Cole said. I know, she said. It was your information that made this possible, he said. You don't owe anything to the approach. She looked at him, that careful, level look that weighed things honestly and did not offer anything it had not decided to offer. Do you want me to come? She said. The honest answer was yes, which surprised him in its forcefulness. The practical answer was that she was the best shot he had seen outside of a professional marksman, and she knew the terrain better than anyone in the room. Yes, he said. The single word. Something changed in the room. Not large. Nothing visible to anyone who was not paying attention. But Cole was paying attention, and he felt it. The way you feel a temperature shift before you can name what changed. Then I will come, she said. She rolled her map and went to the back room. Cole sat at the table. He was not a man who had ever particularly hoped for things. Hope had always seemed like a way of preparing yourself to lose something you had not yet earned the right to grieve. But sitting at that table with the coffee ring worn into the wood and the storm starting outside and Nara's precise, clean map lines in his hands, something that was built very close to hope moved through him, and he did not fight it. He folded the map with care. He went to the stable loft. Fletcher was awake in the dark below, breathing steady, and Cole lay on the hay and listened to the storm arrive, and did not sleep for a long while, and was not unhappy about it. They rode out at 4 in the morning, 8 riders moving south through the black country with no lights and very little sound. The storm having washed the sky clean and left a cold that sat in your lungs when you breathed. Cole rode at the front with Lou and Nara. The 2 Apache men, whose names were Tall Pine and Crowfeather, rode the flanks. Lou's 4 deputies rode behind in a loose line. They hit the east draw before first light and dismounted, leaving the horses with one of Lou's deputies and going up on foot. The draw was steep and narrow and required hands in some places, and the rock was still slick from the storm. Nara moved through it as though she had rehearsed it, which perhaps she had. Cole went up 2 feet behind her and did not look down. The shelf above the draw looked out over the canyon bowl. In the early gray light, Cole could see the camp below. 3 fires that had burned down to coals. A string of horses along the far wall. Buildings, rough lumber and canvas, strung along the creek bed confluence. Men moving, More than 12. Cole went still beside Nara. They both looked. "Those men came back," Nara said, quiet as a breath. "Yes," Cole said. Lou came up behind them and looked, and said nothing for a moment. 15, Lou said. Cole looked at the bowl. He looked at the two entrances. He looked at the position of the guards, 3 of them visible, 1 at each entrance and 1 moving a slow circuit of the camp. He looked at Nara. She was already looking at him. "The circling guard," she said. "Every 4 minutes he passes between the first fire and the string of horses. That is a position where he cannot see the east draw entrance clearly." 4 minutes is the window, Cole said. "Yes," she said. He turned to Lou. "We go in 3 groups. Nara and I take the east entrance in the guard's blind window. Your men take the main approach, slow and deliberate, visual presence only until I fire once. That shot is the signal. You come hard then." "And if the guard changes his circuit?" Lou said. "I adjust," Cole said. Lou looked at Nara. "She the best shooter you have?" "Yes," Cole said without hesitation. Lou looked at Nara directly. "Mem," he said, "I'm glad you're with us." Nara received this with a nod that managed to be neither dismissive nor grateful, but simply acknowledging, the way she received most things. They went. The 4 minutes were the longest 4 minutes Cole had known in recent memory. They moved through the east entrance when the circling guard was behind the horse string, and they were inside the camp's perimeter before the man turned around. What followed was loud and fast, and went the way these things go when the preparation was solid, and the people doing the work kept their heads. Lou's approach from the main entrance hit 15 seconds after Cole's single shot, and the visual mass of 4 mounted deputies arriving at the main gate at speed convinced 3 of Dalton's outer men to drop their rifles before the question was formally asked. Dalton himself was in the largest building. He came out with a revolver, saw the odds, and made the reasonable decision. He was a compact man, late 50s, with the eyes of someone who had spent a lifetime deciding that what he wanted was more important than what other people needed. Cole had seen those eyes on 100 men in this territory. They were never as confident as their owners believed. "Federal warrant," Lou said, holding up the paperwork. Dalton looked at it, looked at Cole, looked at Nara, which was a mistake because his face did the thing faces do when they have not anticipated something and do not know how to process it. And that moment of exposed surprise told everyone watching exactly what kind of man he was. "You're making a mistake," Dalton said. "The warrant disagrees," Lou said. They put him in irons. His 4 closest men followed, and 3 more after them. The remaining 8 surrendered their firearms and were held at the camp while Lou's deputy rode to the nearest telegraph station. It took most of the day to process and secure. Cole walked the perimeter of the camp while the work was happening, not from restlessness, but from the old habit of understanding the ground you were standing on. Nara found him at the far end of the horse string as the afternoon light was going gold across the canyon walls. "It is done," she said. "Mostly," he said. "There will be a trial. Dalton has lawyers and money. It won't be clean." "But it will be legal," she said. "Yes," he said. "Legal is what the families needed. It gives the land a story they can use." She stood beside him and looked at the canyon walls in the late light. The red rock had gone amber, warm, almost soft. The same light that had painted the canyon the evening he came over the ridge, and saw her in the draw below, with a knife in her hand, facing down 2 laughing men. "I have to go back to Mora," she said. "Ben will need to return south before winter. We have family in the mountains." Cole nodded. He was looking at the canyon wall. "And after that?" he said. And she looked at him. Our route comes north again in the spring, she said. Mora, then Dry Fork Valley, then along the ridge road to the summer grazing. Cole looked at the amber rock. Spring is a long way, he said. It is not so long, she said. There was a pause that was comfortable in the way few pauses are comfortable, the kind that did not need filling. That notation in the corner of your map, Cole said. The 3 words. What did it say? Nara was quiet for a moment. It says, "The land remembers who moved carefully across it," she said. Cole thought about that. And the rest of it? He said. She looked at him, and this time what moved through her expression was not small or brief. It was there, clear, real, held without apology. The rest of it says, and so do I, she said. Cole had spent 11 years telling himself that the territory was enough. The road and the work and the flat gray sky and the horse beneath him and the next horizon. He had built a very convincing argument. It collapsed there, in about 3 seconds. In the amber light of a canyon, he had ridden past 100 times and never once stopped to look at. He did not say anything eloquent. He was not a man built for eloquence. Spring, he said. I will be here. Nara looked at him one more time with that honest, level, careful gaze, the one that weighed things truly and offered what it had decided to offer. I know, she said. She walked back toward the camp. Cole stood at the horse string for a while longer, watching the last of the amber light leave the canyon walls and the first stars appear in the strip of sky above the rock. Fletcher was somewhere behind him, tied to a post, probably eating or making pointed remarks about the schedule. Cole was not in a hurry. For the first time in 11 years, there was somewhere he was pointed toward rather than just away from, and the difference between those 2 directions was large enough that he felt it. And the way you feel elevation change, in the chest, in the breath, in the way the next morning looked from where he was standing. He stood there until the stars were fully out. Then he walked back toward the lit fires of the camp, and the sound of Lau Granger's voice reading charges, and the practical, ordinary work of the rest of the evening. And somewhere between the horse string and the fire, Cole Harlan, who had never knew love until an Apache woman arrived and changed his life, took one full breath and let it out slow. And the territory, which had tried to kill him several hundred times, left him alone. For now, that was enough. For spring, there would be more.